Hey, Blair. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. Well, so we're live, and James has turned us on to. It's like I feel like a dancing bear a bit. Anyway, hi everyone. Hi everyone here. So things have seemed to have evolved in the last little while, and a certain amount of what we're doing has fallen into place. And I just want to say that there was no plan, and there still really is no plan. But there's what it seems to be that it's unfolding though. Anyway, you know, when we came back to start doing this after Christmas, I was like, you know, what are we doing? Because before Christmas, we just booked 7 weeks, and I thought, well, I can kind of stumble my way through 7 weeks. Something, it'll be, you know, we'll make something happen. And now, anyway, so the plan, what seems to want to happen, is that we're going to go on a journey together. And like, anybody here like to travel? Travel. So we got a room full of travelers. And well, this is a trip, but we're not going to leave the farm. We're just going to, we can if we want, but we're the journey that we're going to go on together is this journey of awakening. And over and over again, I hear people say, you know, it's lonely, or it's not much fun doing the work by myself. And so what seems to want to happen is a group where we do stuff together. And so all I am is the you know, the pointer, I think, you know, to point out a direction from my experience that we can take this year. And the whole idea of awakening to love is the idea. And I see there's a lot of what we'll call personal growth out there. I've done a ton of it, you know, like I've read, you know, I would say several hundred personal growth books. And I've listened to, you know, several hundred or thousand podcasts, and I've been to, you know, with lots of teachers and all in an effort to somehow. Do we need a few more chairs? Maybe. All in an effort, to somehow make myself better. Did anybody relate to that? And if I, you know, kind of do enough work or read enough books or you know, hang out with enough teachers, some of it is I'm going to change. And because the concept of myself was that I needed to change. You know, that was my thing, and somehow I needed to be different, or be better, or be more, or more effective, or more likable, or more loving, or more, but just I needed to be more. And so I really, since the late 70s, my life has been more or less committed to figuring out in some way what was wrong with me. Probably nobody can relate to that, but and so this is not that kind of group. What I don't know if I learned this or I just finally, you know, the door finally opened. But what I realized is that I'm, number one, not who I thought I was. And who I thought I was, you know, all the labels that I had and all the stories that I had about myself. And the very early stories were, of course, that I wasn't enough. And that's why I spent most of my life trying to be more. And so my conditioned beliefs were my stories, and so I'm not that. Which leaves me in a bit of a position of not knowing then, if I'm not that, who am I? And which is kind of, we could stop right there, that's the big question. But so, and if I'm myself in this moment, I'm in I think it was, a bit of Eckhart Tolle and a bit of David Hawkins and a bit of Paul Lowe, who always said, be here now. And many of those things combined, that one day I realized that I couldn't rewrite the script enough for me to be content, or for me to buy the story. And the story was the story of who I thought I was. And if you asked me, it was also the Enlightenment Intensive, like the Satori experience that I just hated and decided I would never do, and finally did, and it was like, oh my God, I'm none of those things, do you remember? Yes, and it was like, because that was just 3 days of tell me who you are, and all of the story fell away, and so who are we? And that's what I want to point towards for this year, and for all of us, and because I think that we're all looking for something, and we've been looking for it outside of us. Many of us have been looking outside of us, and I even spent a lot of my life looking for a concept of God outside of me, in a variety of religions and in a variety of belief systems. And I spent 2 years religiously in sweats. I would go to the reserve and I would be there. Great belief system. And as I talk about these beliefs, I'm not in any way disparaging any of them. I just recognize that I didn't find what I was looking for there. And I went to India and spent time with the Dalai Lama, and even if he was saying what we're going to talk about tonight, I didn't hear it, because it was kind of masked in a lot of story, and there was a lot to filter through to find it. And I've been to Peru and been with the elders there, and went through their ceremonies, and all of those things helped to find a glimpse. But so anyway, what I think is possible is that we can awaken to this one thing that we all really want, that we can't really get because we already have, and that's love. And that's the name of our one day that's coming up in March. We're calling it Awakening. The context is Awaken to Love, so what I haven't developed this. I can't even, but I'll just say that what we've developed, or what we're going to do, is practice bringing love, or the moment, or universal intelligence, or God, or it, into the moment. And we're going to use things like fear and complaint, and to be the touchstones. Anger. Does anybody, probably nobody in here got angry today even once, but maybe, and how irritation comes up. It's kind of there's all of these things have like a low grade form. Many of us have spent most of our life living in what I call a low grade fear. They call it anxiety, right? And God bless them, and they can give you pills for it, but it doesn't really deal with it. It numbs it, but it doesn't really deal with it. And some of us live in a low grade anger. If anybody know anybody that, when you're around them, you kind of tiptoe because they're just about ready to explode. And I mean, they're fucking angry, and I've been that way myself. And so that's the possibility, is that we'll look at this year our belief systems, We'll look at our conditioned beliefs about ourselves, about life, about relationship, about money. What about anything else? That covers a lot of it, doesn't it? Time. We have belief systems, huge belief systems around time. I mean, we really believe that yesterday happened. And we're quite attached to it. Or we think we know what happened in yesterday. Do you know? And it's really, it took me a long time to realize that my story of yesterday isn't what happened. My story of yesterday was just my perception of what happened. And it was filtered through my mind, which has a lot of stories about everything. About me, about you, and automatic stories about, people because of the way they sit on the chair. Or we make up shit about, the kind of glasses they wear, or we're instantly judging. And so then we take all that judgment into the story of our life. So we're going to look at judgments. And so the possibility is to be free. But we can't think our way to freedom. We can only, through awareness and bringing ourselves constantly back to the moment with love, and we can use our breath to bring us into the moment, we can eventually, get here. And it's kind of, Paul used to say, my teacher used to say, you cannot find it by looking for it, and you won't find it if you don't look for it. And I was like, fuck. What is it? And the koan, what is it? And it was, well, it isn't even really love, although awakening to love is the conversation. It's just now. And if we can be here now, and so that's what we're going to practice. Like a whole year of just practicing being here now, and helping each other to bust our stories. We have stories around business. We have stories around, well, I've been over quite a big list. So does that sound like fun? Yeah. Well, it's not. It is. It's a bit hard because we're attached, right? We're attached. I'm attached to my story. I had lots of them about me that I was very attached to and tried to live into. And we're also attached to this idea of creating a certain future. I was listening to Joe Dispenza on the way over, and I love Joe, but Joe is talking about his mind movies. So basically, we decide and create this movie so that we can live into it. And I don't know. My experience is that I can't. It's almost impossible for me. It's impossible for me to decide big enough. If I can live in the moment and be as much as possible in connection with spirit, the moment, love, God, then I don't have to create a magnificent future. It's already happening because I will be in acceptance in each moment. I will be in love in each moment. And then it doesn't really matter what's happening. Does that make sense? Because I spent almost all of my life trying to get stuff to make me happy, to get stuff to make me feel filled up, make me feel a certain way. So living in the moment I think is not for the faint of heart. So I commend you, and I'm going to keep repeating this, and some of you may not like it in a way, because it's like, oh my gosh, we might actually wake up and say, I'm not doing this is not the life I want. I'm not, it doesn't feel right anymore for one reason or another. We've been ignoring the fact that it doesn't feel right. And we haven't been trusting our intuition. and living into some idea of what our life should be. And it might be an idea that our mom or dad gave us, or that a spouse gave us, or that, so we have been doing something. And I think as we get closer to this connection with spirit, the moment, love, we find freedom to let go of all of the things that we believed we should be. We don't even use the word should anymore. We're out of the shoulds. And so that's the story, that's the journey. So I'm excited because I feel honored actually to be part of it. And that there's this possibility that we can drop into this space that's outside of our idea of what's happening here. And so we don't get better, we just become who we really are. That's pretty cool, isn't it? We just become who we really are. And I believe we are spirit, we're God incarnate, that we're here, we have access to. In my 12-step world it says, God either is or he isn't. And it was written 80 years ago, so it's a bit patriarchal. And so God either is or she isn't. And either she's everything or she's nothing. And I had this idea that God was, or the moment, or love, was something outside of me. That it was over there, and then I was separate from. And that conditioned belief came from some of my teachings in religion. It came from this idea that I was in some way very much less than, and that if I was a really good boy, that God would shine his love light on me in some way, and so I think that as we realize that we are really living in, with all the possibilities in each moment, that we are God's incarnate, incarnated, is that the word? Yeah. And gosh, I feel like I'm blasphemous in the United Church saying this shit, but still, here we are. And it's a bit of a big package, but that's the package. And so hang on, and there's lots of, if I can suggest, there's some great authors that have really been telling us this, and I'm only going to talk about some of the more modern ones, but there are, we've been told forever. The Bhagavad Gita is an amazing book where we can, by Stephen Mitchell. His rendition, his translation is amazing. Everything that Hawkins wrote is really helps us to see who we are, and or who we have thought we were as well, who we've been pretending we are, and it's so dense that it's almost impossible to see, because we really think that this is it. I mean, that we're this thing that we think we are, which is generally not enough, and we can drop past it anyway. Eckhart Tolle, of course, has really talks about living in the moment, and how everything that ever is, was, or ever will be is now. And I mean, that's a Christian that came. Christ supposedly said that and he's basically saying that and he said, I and my Father are one, and everything I can do, you guys can do, and he was telling us in his teachings, and it kind of got convoluted a bit, I think, and so. Although I'm not prescribing any particular religion, I just believe that most of the religions at their core had this idea that we were amazing beings, and we could wake up to this, and live in love. So we're going to play with love and use love as the idea of what we're going to bring into each moment. So all our relationships, And I often say, what would love do? When in my thoughts of, asking, and what would love do? And anyway, and I have to trust, because my ego often says something different. Anyway, let's meditate for a little bit. Meditation. This started out as a meditation group, and meditation is a tool for us to drop into the space beyond the consciousness that we're in now, and as we drop into that consciousness, we can actually see the old consciousness, talking, and because it talks a lot, and we call it thinking, and so we see the thinking going, and recognize that often there's hardly anything very important that it thinks, especially if we're sitting here meditating, but you can tell it that we're here meditating for 10 minutes and that it's safe and that it's okay and it can relax, and we'll practice using the breath to be here in our meditation, but yeah, 10 minutes? No way. Okay, James is going to take us on a 15-minute ride, but meditation really helps us to see that we are not our thoughts, and which is just a kind of a tip that if we're not our thoughts, then we're not, who we think we are. Who created that image of us, our thinking. We made decisions at 3 years old about ourselves and 4 years old about ourselves because of something that happened or something that somebody said, and so it wasn't true. And so yeah, let's do that. You ready? Here we go. So just get comfortable, and James loves to hit that bell. You just recognize that we're here in a safe place. We're with community, with the family, with our brothers and sisters. Just follow the breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. And with the breath, nothing else can come in. Their focus is there. In a way, it keeps us centered and present in the breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Become aware of your body. Every bit of it, from the tip of your toes to the top of your head. That brings us into this moment too. If you hear my voice, as I speak, just remember that we actually don't hear outside of our head, we hear inside. And as the sound is being played inside of your head, you can actually expand into the sound. Just focus on what you hear inside. I know it seems like it's outside, but it's not. We hear it inside. So, just come back when you're ready. Just take your time. Just, yeah, beautiful. I love that we do this together. Wow. My intuition was saying that some of us could sit for 2 hours, and some of us are stretching at 5 minutes. And
My foot fell asleep. Yeah.
and so yeah. But what a great place to practice. And remember that if we're meditating at home, and I think that we're on this journey together, that it's a good idea that we meditate at home, and well, the first thing is that we sit, and I know that sounds simple, but lots of times people have said to me, well, I can't meditate, and so, well, do you have a space where you sit? No. Have you ever tried, sitting? Well, a couple of times, but so it takes some practice. Really, we find a place that we're comfortable, or we create a space that we're comfortable in, and we sit. And I've told this story a few times, but I remember when I was a little guy, I was like 3 or 4 or 5, and I was in my bedroom, and I was hollering at my mom, I can't sleep. And she said, try laying down. It's the same with meditation. Try, find a place to sit. And that's kind of the beginning. And then I remember her saying, and because we laid down, and I don't know how many times this must have happened, but for me to remember it, but, I still can't sleep. And she said, try closing your eyes. And so the same thing with meditation. So we sit and close our eyes, and I think if you just say to your mind, we're just taking a break. It's okay, and don't fight with it. Just relax into it, and the thoughts, if they come and they're really urgent, just come back to the breath. If they get us, how sometimes they'll get me, and I, even without knowing it, I've picked up my phone, and because I'm a little addicted, and so just come back to the breath, and even if you've come right out because the phone buzzed and you checked to see who it was, then go back in. Anyway, when I was sitting, this thought came to just say that these suggestions, that we're going to work towards, this is a practice for me. It's not I don't have it. It's a practice for me, and it's and some days I'm totally lost in it, and some days I'm not, but I found that the more often I get to be with others in a capacity of listening, or capacity of maybe guiding in some way, the closer I am to this love. And often the thing that comes up in the conversations is around relationship. And have any of you ever been in a relationship with somebody and you wanted them to be different? Yeah. Or do something different, or act differently, or grow up, and have we ever done anything to try and make them do something different? We offered them treats, right? Or we threaten to beat them, or abuse them in some other way. We give them the cold shoulder. We stop talking to them, or we, make them sleep in another room, or behavior modification techniques, and we're all familiar with them, right? And it doesn't work. Like it just, does it work? No, it doesn't work. So, what if we could possibly function at a higher level, a level of love and acceptance? And, we all know in our lives that we have people who love us just the way we are. There's some folks that we just know, they just love us the way we are. They're not trying to change us. They're not, we can come and tell them our worst stuff, and they just listen and say, wow. and those are our happy people. We want to be with those people. And so I think that, in relating, we could be those people for lots of people. And it's sometimes the hardest with that guy, the ex, especially the ex, right? So gosh, and that gal, did something wrong to us, or took all our money, or slept with our brother, whatever, and whatever. I mean, it's a family thing. And that maybe seems extreme, but we all have those stories. They have somebody done us wrong, and we'll show them. We'll withhold our love. But who gets hurt? I mean, we both do, don't we? We both end up in a tight spot. So that just came anyway. That whenever around relating, who's in an intimate relationship? Like right now, who's in an intimate relationship? There's a few of us. My cat. That doesn't count. Of course it counts, but it's so easy to be unconditionally loving with our cat, isn't it? Yeah, it's just like, oh. Yeah, I could go so many places with that, but I'm not gonna. JR knows what I was thinking. But so, yes, I've actually thought about getting a dog, because dogs are unconditionally loving, but imagine if we practiced. I mean, what a great place to practice being in love. Not in love like I'm in love with you, but in living in love, in our relations with our past lovers, or past people, and because our conditioning often we're really strongly conditioned in right and wrong and good and bad. I mean, we watched cartoons when we were kids, and there was always a victim and there was always a perpetrator. There was always, and so we grew up looking for that, and we grew up believing that we have been wronged by people, or that so we're either in one of those two positions depending on the perspective, and if we could live in a space with the people that we already have, in that love space. Yes, James.
I was thinking about that before.
Speak up.
So when I'm in a relating and I'm thinking of my conditions, all these conditions that I have.
Yes.
I can't be in love.
No.
Because I have all these conditions.
Yeah.
Not on them, but on myself. Love is unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
It's unconditioning ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Letting go of our conditions,
mm-hmm.
so that we can love.
Mm-hmm.
So it has nothing to do with the other person.
So in Hawkins' scale, when we get to his level at unconditional love, we've let go of that. You're right, but we think that we have to kind of work our way there, And we can just practice our way there. We can just be there. And if we're there, you know, have you ever felt like we're just so overwhelmed with love, where you're just like, oh my God, just in bliss. And there's no problems. Every problem in our life is gone. You know, it's just, we're there. We're in, you know, love brings us into the moment. And so if we can practice being in the moment, that's where love is. And love didn't bring us into the moment. Love is the moment. And there's no conditions.
And we don't need anybody to do that.
No, we don't. But I'm only using an example because it's, you know, we are here on the planet. And
but when we get to that, we can be with
nobody.
Everybody.
Oh, yes. Exactly. Because it's the same. And, you know, it's like being nobody. I love Ramm Dass. I've been listening to a lot of Ramm Dass lately. And, you know, but stuff that he recorded in the 70s and the 80s. And you've been listening to some of his stuff? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Blair too? Yeah. Awesome. So Ramm Dass, by the way, is, you know, listen to some of his stuff. It's great because it really is talking about being here now and living in this moment and letting go of all of our ideas of who we are culturally. You know, we're this idea that we're a man or a woman, or that we're indigenous or we're not indigenous, or we're, you know, friggin' maritimer, you know, whatever, you know, and as if it means something. So, and it doesn't mean that, in a way, that we still don't have those things, but we don't have an attachment to them. You know, I mean, I'm not going to change the fact that I'm a man, you know, but nice to not be attached to it, or attached to any story around how I have to live, and just to let go of it. So, it would be nice, somebody have something about relationships, something that we can play with, you know, like old ones, new ones. Will you say your name?
My name is Siobhan. Sure. I have a couple names. My parents gave me the name Siobhan.
Yes.
A Sioux elder at a Sundance ceremony gave me the name Oyate Ochikiapo, which means praise with the people. And I love that name. I love all my names, but that one in particular resonates really well with situations like this. And most recently, Sapoki, which means she who stands out from the rest. I'm not sure how I feel about that one.
Well, you do.
But, yeah. It's something that's a Blackfoot name, so I'm interested to see how that works. In this journey of relationships, you know, relationships with myself, I haven't been able to get to being in the present, like you're talking about, and being fully aware of myself, because I've been reliving my past relationships over and over again in my head, and going like, what is all this stuff? And today I decided just to sit down and write it on paper, and hope that it can relieve me of some of the stress of it all. And for years I couldn't see straight, because the relationship with my physical body was trying to tell me something that I didn't want to hear. So I didn't write down a lot of things, and I didn't express myself. And I did the same with my relationships. And I noticed that whenever somebody did that to me in my relationship, I would go, "What's wrong with you? What's your problem?" And in that experience, I stopped doing that. I stopped being in relationships with people, because I needed to find out what my relationship with myself was. And I'm still figuring that out, because now I have a 4-year-old daughter that I'm, you know, I've gone through being pregnant, and that was the most present I've ever been in my entire life, and it was the greatest gift of enlightenment, of pure love that I'd ever experienced in my entire life. and it lasted for about 2 years. And then a couple fighter jets flew over my house and woke me up from my dream that I was living. And now I'm having to go through that process over again and get it out there for myself to share, or just relieve myself of it, because I think that's part of the process we get to experience is relieving ourselves of the story so that others can relate to it and go, oh, a story, that's great, woo, now we're all up on this next level. And I'm interested about that relating part of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not sure if you find any juice in any of that.
Well, I do. And I don't know if this means anything, but it's just what came. That sometimes when we have a child, it brings purpose. And purpose is it brings love and purpose. There's this, oh my gosh, I have this. This is my job. This is my but it's also it's not like purpose like I'm the milkman, but it has love in it. It's like you're in love, not just with the child, but with the job, with life. Does that make sense?
It was, yeah. I haven't ever really thought of it as a job.
No, so it isn't.
But it's trying to find a way to be in love with. Well, I didn't even have to try for the first couple of years.
Yes.
And being pregnant and stuff. It was about being in love in the moment, being in love with the moment.
So
finding more ways to expand that and share with her what it meant to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Is, became the journey.
So what if your purpose is to awaken?
Me or
yes.
me help her awaken? Because
No.
I think every moment I'm living, I kind of wake up and go, oh, I get it. I'm here with everybody, woo. And then I fall back asleep and I go back into my story and I go back to my stuff.
Yes.
And then a bird flies by or an owl sits in our front window or a back window and has light in its eyes in a certain way and blinks at me a couple times and I go, oh, I'm awake, I'm in love again. And then, it flies away and I have a coffee and I go, ooh, I'm not awake anymore.
So what happens when you're not awake?
What's been happening more recently in the last year or so is how do I stay awake? What is holding me like a big weighted blanket that keeps me sleeping?
Well said. So, and like I totally hear what you're saying, and what I was suggesting is that we can use the things that we fall asleep into as touchstones for awakening. So we can just kind of flip them. So some of the things that I think that keep me in my story, well, or a touchstone that I'm in it, is, one of them is fear. So fear comes in, I can feel it in my belly, I can feel it in my shoulders, and so I use that and I come back to my breath, and I come back to love, and it brings me into the moment. I wake up, it's like, oh, look at that. As soon as I'm aware of the fear, I'm there. Doesn't mean I'm there in bliss, or I'm there in joy, or I'm there in a sense of love, but I'm there. And as soon as I become conscious of my complaint, if you have a 4-year-old, that complaint can come up, from her, but also from you, and so when I'm in complaint about anything. If I use it as a tool or a touchstone to be present, or if I'm in judgment, if I judge James for that hat, and I tease him about it all the time, I do. But and sometimes the judgment comes up. I'm like, that's the silliest looking hat.
Everything I do is so you can judge me.
Right. But when I do, it's an awakening tool. You know, the other day I talked about it last week, how I got so mad at my roommate, and I got lost in it. I was just totally, but there was a level of consciousness watching, like the watcher was still there, and I was like, wow, look at this, and I'm just yelling at this guy, and you know, he's such a teacher. Anyway, he doesn't know in that way, but yes, so having been there, as you have, you know what it feels like to be in the bliss and in the love, and the possibility to live in that is here. Although
it felt so easy. Being in it felt so easy.
Yes.
Just being love and accepting myself.
Yeah, but we talk about it too much, so they'll put us on medication. So, so you have to kind of be careful, because there's, you know, even the idea that we could live in another way, that we could live in free of judgment and free of complaint, free of fear, free of anger, you know, is scary for people, you know. You know, I talked to a lady the other day, and she said, "But I have to work." I said, "You can take this to work. You know, we can take it everywhere." So, if your intuition suggests that you not be in a relationship as you grow more aware of yourself, more in a relating with you, I think that's amazingly powerful. And because I've been doing the same thing for the last 4 years, and I also see where sometimes a little fear comes up of being in a relating, and I watch, well, am I just not being with somebody because I'm afraid? Because that, you know, so I look at that and say, you know, I don't, if I had enough of that, you know, in a way that because sometimes being with somebody hurts, you know, it wakes stuff up, and wakes up expectations, and it wakes up, you know, stuff, right? Yeah. We feel judged, so sometimes fear keeps us out of being with somebody.
Yeah, I'm going to the tantric teachings and yoga in order to get through that. So I have ancestral knowledge that's like not just written in my DNA, but like, you know, thousands of year-old teachings that have helped us to become more self-aware before.
Yes.
Well, just to be able to go, hey, here, how about this? And
so the tantrikas were about being here now. We're like.
It's to help the story take me from being in my story to being in the global consciousness story.
To
the ancestral
a bigger story. So Osho said, how do you spell Tantra? Y-E-S. He said, that's how you spell Tantra. Yes. And yes is to this moment. Yes is like the most powerful world in a way. And our conditioning has been no. And because fear takes us to no always. And so if we could say yes, it can always change to a no. If, you know, then we're just a yes to our no, which is okay. But if we're automatically a no, you know, no, I'm not interested in, you know, we have a list of, you know, things that we're not going to do, or, you know, that's cool that you're going deep. Who's the teacher?
Aaron Patrick and Alyssa King. They're a couple who have 6 kids and live and thrive with each other and have a yoga studio that is just being finished right now. And they're doing a summer training program for level 1 this year, and then have their level 2 next year.
Are they here in town?
Yeah, and they're here in town.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we go see them?
Yes.
I'd love to meet them with you. As long as I've known you, I know that you're on this journey, and it's really up for you. And I think that as we open the door for more people, it's going to become more, even the possibility that we could live free or become aware or conscious of living a yes is a new idea for a lot of people.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's unlocking pieces of our DNA. If we kind of do that, I'm lucky, I guess you can call me lucky, that I now share DNA with another human being. And by carrying their child, their DNA was literally inside my body. And that has given me insight that I never could possibly imagine before. And with that, it's given me clues to take steps forward, that every book that has been written is kind of like sharing DNA with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like sharing the story that can unlock what it means to be the potential of what it means to be human, to be universal, to be anything,
Mm-hmm.
Or nothing. Because you could go, I don't want anything to do with that. But it gives you the capability to be that bridge for the moment, for the chapter,
Mm-hmm.
for the book, for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. So when we die,
Mm-hmm.
the story is that we don't really die.
Stardust.
That whatever we, Ramm Dass, many people talk about multiple lives, thousands of lives, and so if we look at a bigger picture, more of a 5,000 or 50,000 foot view, as opposed to how most of us are living our lives, is in a contracted, smaller view. So you're talking about a much bigger view, mm-hmm. and using the DNA as an example of that, and even the DNA in a way is a story. We've called it that. Mm-hmm. We've named it that. It's our connection to God, to universal intelligence, it's in our cellular, in each cell, mm-hmm. and that we're all of that, and more. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. It's just my opinion, mm-hmm. that if we can, have the story, mm-hmm. and still not be attached to it, and strive to be here now in love, mm-hmm. in each moment. I have this idea that love is somehow kind of an important thing. Mm-hmm. And that love is the magic ingredient. That love, heals. That love opens up, hearts. Love opens up doors. Love is magic.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I feel like it's unlocked chakras. It's unlocked our potential as human beings. It's unlocked our creative potential.
To do something, or to get something.
To get something, just to vibrate.
Okay.
To go from being primordial ooze to being people that can consciously speak to one another.
So we
hold hands and
we are love.
Raise the roof.
We are love.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So okay. So we agree. We are love, and so your path that you're on is helping you to come to the realization of love. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and in that I understand there's it's kind of like bouncing back in the vibrations of a giant speaker being here on Earth. You can see through the tiny holes and you can see the light coming in, but from the inside there's this great sound being created, and in that vibration we we can settle into it and help raise the vibration, or we can fight it and become dust and turn into rattle.
Yeah.
And
But we're saying the same thing. You know, we can be here now in love, and the whole idea of what I'm suggesting is that on a practical sense, we bring ourselves back to this moment, in each moment, to our yes, to love, or we call on love to when we're stuck in the contractedness of a no, or the contractedness of anger, the contractedness of fear, or you know, and so I think it becomes a practice. And does anybody relate to living life with a low-grade fear, having just a sense of anxiety?
she's called 4.
Mm-hmm.
She's called 4.
Well, yes, but the rest of us have it too, you know, and without any special 4-year-olds. Is that what you said? You meant?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. We just have it, and we've gone through our lives, and we've, you know, lived in this thing of trying to get it right, you know, and we're full of judgment on ourselves and others, so the process that I'm hoping to help us, you know, and maybe I'm just doing all this so that I can be there myself more, you know, because, you know, you have these awakenings, and like you say, it's like ego has tentacles, and it just kind of grips us, and all of a sudden we're asleep again. You know, we have these awakened moments, and when we do this thing on the 21st, you know, we're going to dance into awakening, you know, and we're going to even experience ourselves, like some of us are so self-conscious, we can't even speak in public. Not you. But we can't, you know, because we're gripped with fear. So we're going to dance together. We're going to spend a whole day together and drop into love. And, you know, we're going to do breath work together. And who here's done, you know, breath work, newer breath work, yeah. And have an experience of awakening in breath work. And it's a beautiful tool. And we're going to do some of the enlightenment intensive. Who's done enlightenment intensive here? Yes, the 3 of us have done it. It's just amazing, isn't it? You know.
Torturous.
Yes, it is, but it's a tool to this bliss that you're talking about. You know, this and yes, and then you go home, and 2 weeks later you're thinking, what happened? I was awake, you know. And I found one of the best ways, though, to stay awake is to serve others, is to be in love, in service. And then when I'm not thinking about me, I'm sitting with you and I'm loving you, and we're talking about you loving somebody else, or we're listening, and, you know, time disappears. Everything just, you know, time disappears. And we're like, oh my God. You know, we wake up and say, I've been here for 2 hours. So I think that's one of the greatest vehicles. And that's why I believe when we come together as a group, committed to really get in relationship and talk about, you know, when, you know, what's going on in our lives. And you know, if Toby goes to James and says, James, this is, and tells her story, and James says, yeah, what would happen if we brought love into this? You know, and reminds you, and then and we all remind each other that love is the key ingredient to awakening, and so it's simple. Is it too simple? You know, that's, yeah. I couldn't even write a book about that. It's just so damn simple.
I always get gratitude in there, and then I go, oh, my ego, because then it's giving to me, and then giving back, and yeah.
Well, even gratitude is out of judgment. Sometimes, do you know what I mean? Yes, it's a higher vibration. There's no question, you know, but imagine that we judge good and bad. We live in a dualistic world, and we say this is good and that's bad, and So our whole conditioning has been to judge. And so, like, at one level, if we're in unconditional love, I wouldn't say, "Wow, I'm so grateful you guys all came." I would just be here in love, and not in gratitude. Yes.
Just wanted to say, because I was actually going to suggest, like, if it just felt sometimes when you're talking, you're pretty hard on yourself, like to stay constantly awake or to have this expectation of how to carry that consistently, because everything ebbs and flows, right? But I find myself that what brings me out of my awakening, whatever the word is, my being in the now, would be complaint.
Yes.
So I found it so useful as a tool to bring gratitude into the moment. And now you're saying that, so it kind of blew me a little bit.
But love is just a step above it. That's all. Yeah. No, gratitude is a beautiful tool.
But it's hard to get there when you're like feeling angry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then just don't
stop being grateful. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm a preschool teacher, so I work with 3 and 4-year-olds, and I realize they're just little complaint monsters, like everything. And so I'm like, guys, I'm gonna try to really turn on. How do we be grateful for this, or and just really switch it there? Because they really mirrored how easily we can just complain.
So if we're in gratitude, could you imagine if we taught them to be grateful for everything, not just the good things?
That's right. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Little Johnny had a car accident and his mom and dad died. How do we find the gratitude? We do. We have to. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's an extreme example, but so if we can have gratitude, it's not exclusive. It's inclusive, and it's for the X. You have an ex? Yeah. I'm so grateful for my wives. I've had 2 amazing wives, and I love them both. And I'm not always grateful for them, but but do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if we can have gratitude, and let's have it for everything, and then that's love, isn't it? I think then that's love, and so cool. Mm-hmm. So, can I talk about the hard part of this? So, watch for when you're feeling. Hi, Doug. Nice you're here. So one of the things that we do, one of the patterns that we have is if we're upset about something or we're feeling, I don't know. Well, the truth is we don't like to feel. Generally, we don't want to feel, and so we avoid feeling. I love feeling. Well, yeah, but you're different. Siobhan is different. Stop it.
I'm just going to take a pill.
No, it's good. So, but that's what I was going to say, is that the other thing to watch for, we're watching for, complaint and judgment and anger and fear. Watch for when we go to things to take us out of the moment. So feelings actually bring us into the moment. We're feeling things, and they can be our highway into the moment. And sometimes we'll go and eat ice cream, or we'll get a drink, or we'll smoke a joint, or we'll do something to not be here. So what we're going to play with is being in the feeling, whatever it is. And if you got to call Blair to talk, Blair, I'm in a feeling, or Fram, right? Fram, I'm in a feeling, and it's uncomfortable. And Fram will say, wow, great. And Fran and Blair, I'm just kidding, but they'll do their best not to talk you out of the feeling. Because we do that, right? We say, oh, that's not a big deal, you don't have to feel that. Why are you feeling that? And we talk each other out of our feelings. And so we miss the opportunity for the awareness in the moment, for love in the moment. And we say, yeah, I was making too big a deal of that. And we talk ourselves out of it. So as a group, we build a safe container so that I can call, actually the other day I called Alice, an unofficial member of our group. And I said, Alice, I'm freaking out, and it was about this actually. It was coming on Monday night, and I was having a stress thing, and questioning myself. What am I doing? This is crazy. All of that. And I called Alice, and I said, Alice, I'm having, I'm scared. I'm judging myself. I'm feeling, and Alice did a perfect example of what we can do for each other. She said, well, what are you asking for? Do you want me to just listen? Do you want me to listen and give feedback? Would you like me to, tell you my experience? So she asked she was doing a great job of being like an active listener. And I said, well, I'd like you to listen, and then, yes, I'm interested in your feedback. And so we can, but she didn't try to take me out of the feeling. She did solve a little problem for me, but she didn't say that this was you don't have to feel that. You're crazy to feel that, or why are you feeling that? She didn't say any of that. She did, though, help me because I had to come and do this, and so she helped me to see what I was missing a bit, and I felt loved. I really did. I felt loved by her in the moment, and so we can do that for each other. And when we're in financial fear. Anybody ever have financial fear? Yes, so we can feel it, because the way to grow out of fear is to bring love into it. It's not just to stay in the fear. Feel the fear and ask love to come in, and love, or be present with the fear, and our presence is love, and it just will melt, but if we avoid it, whatever it is with our addictions. Anybody have any addictions? Yeah. Yeah. And addictions are generally things that we do to avoid being here in the moment. So we'll turn on the TV, go to the phone. It's really hard. I'm a bit addicted to the phone. I'm just going to say, and I'm just telling you that I have a bit of a phone addiction. And it's really hard for me when it's up there and I can't look at it. So, right? And so we become knowledgeable about the things we do to avoid the moment. And then when we're having a moment of anger or fear or complaint or judgment, and it's uncomfortable, or we're feeling challenged, or we're feeling less than, or feeling guilt or shame, and often rather than be in that moment, we'll do something. So just watch and call Kathy, call Lauren, and say, holy fuck, and be in it. How many of us have kids? We have kids. It's a great area to feel guilt and shame. It is. And so feel it, because hardly any of us think we're doing a great job. We just don't. We think that we've missed something, or many of us are guilt and shame around parenting, you know, and but that comes from this idea that our conditioning that we're responsible in some way for those children, and in a way, yes, we're there to make sure that they're fed, and you know, there's nobody in this room that locks the kids in the closet. You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about we have, you know, just everyday kind of shame about how we're dealing with them. And so I recognize that my kids are not mine. And I realized that it was my ego that had attached to them, like big time. They were my identity, and it was all about them. They're not mine. They're theirs. When they're little, I got to look after them, and you know, try to steer them a bit, and teach them how to meditate, and that stuff. You teaching your little girl to meditate?
Well, you do Reiki with each other.
Yeah.
Remember to connect with the universe.
Nice. I mean, because it starts with like 30 seconds, and my grandkids meditate, and I've had them sit with me, and anyway. So, but they're not mine, and they're not, and so we can let go of that idea that it's and we can be in the moment with them. Then we can really be with them, because we're not trying to be something, or trying to do something, or trying to get a result. We're just there in love, and they're you know, yeah. If we're not our own identities, you know, we certainly can't identify by this other person, you know, that we're in a relationship with, whether it's a child relationship or a love, you know, intimate relationship. Anyway, I think I talk way too much. Yes?
Talking too much. Can I add something to that? In this journey of learning and building relationships, I've been doing a parenting course, or quest is what they call it, through an online university called Mind Valley. And the professor is talking about, she's a world-renowned psychologist and lives in New York, and she talks about there's a certain age when we're parenting our child, that the way to have a relationship with them is actually to acknowledge our own inner child. And we're really parenting ourselves. Mm-hmm. And they will, over and over again, challenge us in every way that we haven't overcome yet in our lives. Whether it's through our anger issues, or our guilt issues, or our inability to have fun, so they'll act silly beyond all mean. Like, it's just to get us to laugh, even if it's just saying poop over and over and over again. Like, you know,
does she do that?
It's really,
yeah.
it's our connection. It's that connection to our own inner. You know, like we're talking about our inner child, and that it's, you know, then they grow up, and then they act as bears and go find themselves, you know. But you know, we're nurturing our own inner child through them becoming themselves, mm-hmm. through raising their vibration, so that they can meet their whether it's their past lives or their ancestral DNA reliving itself through them, but raising them up to a vibrations through acknowledging ourselves and trying to be love in the best way possible.
Nice.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Our teachers. Yeah. In a way, I mean, everybody in the room would say, wow, that's so true. And yet, there's the possibility to come out of the moment into it, because it's a certain amount of story. Like Vishnu, is that his name? What's the guy's name at Mind Valley?
Vishnu.
Yes. I love what he's done. And a lot of it, though, is personal growth. And so it's teaching us how to be better in a way. And yet, what I'm trying to do is kind of, if it's possible, to skip past all of that Well, don't worry. This is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. But the classroom is our life. It's not just on the weekend or on Monday night, the classroom is our life, and it's like, and it becomes a way of living. Oh, am I really here? Or am I caught up in an anger? Am I caught up in expectation? Am I, judging this guy for, who's laying beside me, for whatever? Or am I projecting my dad on him? Or am I, so we're being present in each moment. It's a lot of work. And it can be fun if we do it together, and I think it takes a while to build that synergy together, and I imagine there's going to be more of us, that people will be attracted to doing this because they've done years and years of personal development, and they're still have anxiety. We're still taking medication for anxiety. We call it anxiety. I get a kick out of it. It's fucking fear, We're in this low grade anger, this low grade fear, this low grade, and I'm not talking about everybody. There's lots of folks that are maybe not there, or maybe they just can't even see it, and so what I'm imagining is that the people who say yes, I will do that. I see the possibility of experiencing love in each moment, and maybe it's a lot to ask for, but there's a possibility that we could pop out of, or become aware of when we're in guilt and shame and pride and anger and desire. Our whole story of our conditioning is we've been told that desire is good. We're supposed to desire, but on the vibrational scale, it's quite low. It's me saying I know better, and it's always from my ego. And so if I release the need to run the show, and say, okay, I get it. I can't run the show. Whenever I run it, I come from a place of wanting, or a fear of losing something, or fear of not getting something. And so I get that, I would love to run the show from love. And if that's possible to live in that space, I think it's possible. Any comments? Thoughts?
Personal development can be just as much an addiction to sure.
Say again?
Personal development can be just as much an addiction as anything.
Oh, yeah.
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 I want to develop myself because I don't feel good and I want to get out of the moment. And I get another hit, or meaning when I say I could get another hit by doing another course or another. But in the end, it's all repackaged stuff. It's been said before a million different ways for thousands of years. Not that it's bad or good. It's not bad or good, but it's just the recognition that it in itself can be an addiction.
Yeah.
It just depends how it's experienced, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this thing that we're doing, I can't brand it. I can't say, you know what I mean? It's really universal. Mm-hmm. The whole idea of living in love in each moment is not, and so we can't really package it. And
What do you mean? I thought you were going to brand it.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, awakening to love, but no, it's exciting because I think all I need to do is just be present when I'm here, and stay with that, because it's tempting to fall into the stories, and they're all great. The mythologies, or the stories of the gods, the stories of our energy systems, and all of that stuff is real at one level, and it's helpful wherever we're at, and but my intent is to, let's just kind of skip right to the finish. Is that crazy? Yes. Well, the beginning and the end are the same in a way. But yes, and I think we can, practice living in love, and dropping our fears and dropping our judgments. We can do it with each other, and then we can do it out there, and we can stop and talk to people and really be with them, and we can do it everywhere. We can really be with our kids in each moment. It doesn't matter what happened before. We can, heal the relationships with our exes and heal the relationships with our brothers and sisters, and because we can practice being there. I just so want to tell our story about last night. Can I tell a little bit of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell about my sister. I have a sister. Hi, Ruth Ann. And I don't think she watches these, but anyway, I've spent a fair amount of my life wanting her to be different, because it hurt to watch her in her alcoholism and in her disease. It hurt. It was hard for me to watch that, and it's only through really the reality of talking to somebody else about their similar situation that I was able to see, like the light just went on for me. It's like, wow, when's the last time I called my sister and said, I love you? And I haven't, because I've had fear and judgment, and wanting her to live, the way I think she should live. And the way she's living is perfect. It's her life, and so I'm grateful. Yes, God, yes, I guess I can use that term, that I was able to have that conversation with somebody else and recognize that in myself, and that, and we do that, so we can practice, make a list of people that we've cut, we've stopped communicating with maybe, and because we didn't know what to say, because they were not acting right, or it seemed to us they were not acting, they were abusing themselves, or with drugs or alcohol, or they were, cheating on your sister, or whatever they were doing that we have a judgment on, to just say, hey, I love you, and however you are is fine, and it just, love heals, but don't do it to heal. Just do it to love. Yes.
I should love you even more if you trigger me.
Yes. Yes.
I should be so grateful.
Yes, I've been telling you that. We're here for each other that way. Thank you.
Well, what if that person is just mean? Like I have a sister that I haven't spoken to for 4 years.
Yes.
But she's in such a pain body state, as Eckhart Tolle explained, and I loved reading that chapter. It helped me so much.
Yes.
That whenever I do reach out, even in love, no, thank you. I can't be near her energy. I send her love from a distance. I meditate, pray, love. But to actually pick up the phone and call her, I would get like puke anxiety over that.
So, I think that what you're doing would be what I would suggest. Yeah. In my opinion, that to have her on your prayer list, but this is I don't know that any of this is true. Okay. This is just shit I made up, but I'm just going to tell you that, in my opinion, love or God or now is everywhere. And so let's imagine a story that comes in the form of spirits, and that we're surrounded by it, absolutely surrounded by it, and that when we send love to someone, what's her name?
Dana.
When we send love to Dana, that they know who Dana is. It knows who Dana is. And that we can almost intercede in a way with love. That we can, love is you know, limitless. It's everywhere. But we have, I believe, the capability to direct it. And we can send love to Dana every day. Dana could be tattooed on your arm. And every time, and the universe or God, or whatever we want to call it, says, oh, somebody loves Dana. Because Dana is not that lovable, in a way, right? By you.
I mean, I've never stopped loving her, but just my energy being anywhere near her.
But when we judge folks, generally that's...
That's my question. What's the difference between judgment and observation? If you're just like, and I know that my perception can vary my observations, but
Yeah.
it's very like, I observed this exactly,
So you observe all you want without judgment.
so you can have.
Well, you can see if she stole your car, that the car is gone.
Yeah.
And that's an observation. Oh, she stole my car. Wonder if she's bringing it back. You know, judgment would be that fucking bitch.
Okay.
Stole my car.
Okay.
I'm going to kill her.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But wow, she must have needed it. We won't even call it stealing. She borrowed my car. Actually, it wasn't even my car. And we just let it go. You know, that would seem a little outrageous, but still.
That helps make it more sense.
Yeah, so if we can send love, because sometimes it isn't. I had this story I was shared last night about my dad. When I sobered up, I had a judgment on my dad. My dad was still drinking. And I spent some of my early sobriety thinking, man, I gotta change him. I gotta be this example so that he can see, and you know, and then we can communicate on a different level, because now, you know, I'm no longer, you know, this pain in the ass that I was, and you know, and I, you know, it was my ego. I wanted him to be different, and I almost missed the rest of his life in this separation that I had, because I wanted him to be different. And I awoke through, I've been doing lots of men's work for like 20 years of men's work, and one of the things in my men's weekend was they taught me how to go and how to really clean up with my dad and to love him just as he was. And we ended up having some beautiful years of relating together, and without me wanting him to be different in any way. And it was beautiful. And I just was able to let go of it.
Can I share a story? Well, I can't really remember the details of.
Well, if you can't remember them, you won't be able to tell us.
No, I can tell. I just don't remember the details.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a long time ago. I remember hearing about it in the news.
But is this a personal story?
No, but it's a story that reminds me, like.
Because we really do want to be as personal as possible, so that it has, it's alive. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, we're just. I'd love it. Can you tell this story in relation to you in some way?
All I know is it really affected me when I heard it.
Okay, tell us that part of it, if you can. So, how did it affect you when it happened? The reason I'm asking is because we want to bring juice, you know, and not hypothetic, if possible.
Well, it's not hypothetical.
Okay.
It's something very real. That
Okay.
affected me, right? And
Make it
actually-
personal, if you can. Tell the story and see if you can make it personal.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So there was this girl. She was a university student, and she went over to South Africa to help the South Africans. And she was told not to give rides to people in the townships, but she gave people rides to the township. In any case, so she gave this girl a ride into the townships, and there was happened to be by chance one of these anti-white rallies going on, and they surrounded the car, and her friend basically took off, and they surrounded the car, and they brutally killed her, the crowd. So the parents basically found out about it, and they asked themselves, what would our daughter really want? I mean, she gave her life to go and help. And so they decided to go there and find some of the people that actually were involved in killing their daughter. And in their love, they felt that what their daughter would have wanted was to help these people, because that was her love, that was her way of doing that. So in the spirit of the memory of their daughter, they found the boys who actually stabbed her. And it was one of these crowd mob type of things.
Yeah, yeah.
And they adopted these boys and made them part of their family and loved them and brought them up. And they went back into the world as different people.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me feel many times over that the capacity for love is so great
Mm-hmm.
in some people, that the little petty things that I sometimes, the memory of that had come back in the past a number of times,
Mm-hmm.
that if these human beings can have that amount of heart
Mm-hmm.
to relate to the memory of their daughter, their connection with their daughter, to do that,
Mm-hmm.
it brings that back to my own place of how much I can love.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in that context, but
Like with your own ex.
well, it doesn't have to be with my ex.
But it
could be
really-
with anything, right? So
Yeah.
or anybody, right? So
But I think for us, because it's so real. If we're talking, I hear the story, and the story's friggin' amazing. It really is. But and if we get, it opens our heart, and we get warmed by a story like that, and we're still not talking to, or still angry with our past partners, or we're still, we're living. What's the word that we use through somebody else? Vicariously. Thank you. Yeah, it's not even your program, but yes, we have this term in the 12-step program, living vicariously. We're looking for vicarious pleasure. So where it's real for us, though, is how is it in our own house? How is it in our own family? How is it in our, that's what I'm suggesting, that we bring love into those moments, and however we do it. And I think if we have relationships where we just can't somehow bring ourselves to talk to those people, doing prayer and sending love that way is just an amazing way to start, or helping others get over that. Is there anybody in the room that has an ex that they're not on good terms with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not you, Fran?
no, I'm on good terms with her. She's just not on good terms with me.
All right, so it's real for some of us, right? And so what do we do with that? What do we do with it? How do we, and so sometimes we can't, come over with gifts because the damage has been, so love melts it. That's all. Love can melt it, and it melts. It also brings, it lifts the vibration of the whole family, in a way, and it lifts the vibration of everywhere we go if we lead with love.
I have a story on that.
Okay, is it personal?
Yes. My ex, for a long time, I held a lot of judgment on how she lived her life, how she treated my kids.
Oh, I've heard some of that.
Yeah. And the more I let go of my condition of how she should be,
Yes.
and my judgment of all her things, our relationship is shifting.
Yeah.
She's treating me different. So my energy just on that judgment and that condition comes out in every interaction that I have with her. So the more I let go of my conditioning and my judgment, she can no longer be energized from my energy, and she just has her own story. And so she doesn't drop into that story as much.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it interesting that our story we have on our family, exes, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, actually has a power to almost hold them in an old place. And we release it when we bring love in, that they can actually let go and shift on their own. I mean, but we don't do it as a tool to get them to shift. It's just a possibility you've told me this a half a dozen times, how it's changed her, how she seems different.
She's okay with the relating that I'm in with right now, that my kids are in, with living pretty much with another woman. She's invited me over to spend time with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't even imagine that at one other time. I was like shocked. I was like, holy crap.
Toby?
I was just gonna say, how do you stay in love if the relationship is harmful? How do you come from a place of love when it's, familial ties? So it's not like you can just write your family off, but it's not good for you. What do you do then?
Well, I think that's I'd love to sit and have a conversation about that, because it's hard to say, and what I would want to do is look for, where is it good for me? What is the possibility here? What am I getting from this? How did this come to me? I have an idea that there are no accidents. That it's life saying something, knocking on the door. Usually with me, it has to knock on the door with a hammer, or a sledgehammer, 2x4, and because there's something I don't want to see, or anybody relate to that? And so often things have to really fall apart before I get the gift, and then I see that landlord, whoever, the things that I thought were the problem, the economy, were my teacher. It's like, wow, fuck. But I couldn't see it sometimes when I was in it. And that's why we can support each other. What would love do? Well, I'm not sure what love would do, but in that particular situation. But the one thing it can always do is what Jen said, is that you can, put them on your love list, your prayer list, you can send love. You don't have to go back into the situation because sometimes we love, we're conditioned to be victims. We're like strongly conditioned. It's our story. Every television show has both, and so we unconsciously put ourselves in that position. Either we're the do-gooder or the savior. I remember as a kid, fantasizing about the lights falling out of the ceiling at school, so I could jump over there and save this pretty girl. I mean, it was just, we were conditioned to put ourselves in that, or if somebody else got her, I was the victim, and so we were painted into that scene, and we have to drop that, and it's not going to be easy. It's a lot of work, and so letting go of it is actually, I believe, more real than rewriting the story in a mind movie of a glorious future, of living in the moment and dealing with what's happening now with love has more amazing potential to live in our full potential, to be who we really are, than designing a beautiful book of pictures of all these things that we're going to get, or the trips we're going to take, or the man we're going to have, or the girl that we're going to have, in the future, and kind of reconditioning or talking ourselves into this new story. I think that if this new story is a story of love, then it happens now. Yes?
I think too, just as I listened to that, I was like, well, there's a space of self-love, and there's a space, I know for me with my ex-partner, who I love, who I very much deeply love still, absolutely without a doubt, and I had to look at why there was self-betrayal on my end, and how come I wasn't loving those pieces of me, and that when I really got about my own conditioning and my own sort of childhood and what I believed love to be. And so there was like it had to change, and I think it's still in the process of changing. And to really begin to love myself and to say that, you know what, I'm not okay with that anymore, and that is okay. And it doesn't mean that it's a negative towards him. It just means that for this here, it needs to be different.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah. I might argue with you though. I'm just warning you.
It's okay, because I think what you said is true. I mean, I remember for many years saying, "Oh, what do you mean love myself?" You know, I kind of shit on that. You know, well, but for me, in my own awakening, and because who I thought I was the story, you know, of me. And the story of me is just, the story of me is not even it's not who I am at all. It's maybe some of the things I did, or you know, and I judged them good or bad. And so I didn't really know who I am. But I realized that I'm not all of those things that I thought I was. I was conditioned to think that I was, my mother told me if I didn't finish high school, I'd dig ditches for the rest of my life. I would be poor. I would be, you know, those stories were integrated into this package, and that's who I thought I was. And so sometimes if I met you, I would look away, you know, because I was embarrassed of my idea of me. And so what I'm suggesting is that the you that we fall in love with, or that you fall in love with, is this you, now, in this breath, in this moment, in this, and the old you will just, you know, the pieces that are, you know, I mean, it'll still be there, but it'll be in a different way. We won't be attached to stories of, you know, when our big brother beat us up, or, you know, where we felt less than, and yeah. So I think that we become love, and so I totally agree that in a way that the thing that we need to love is this thing, but what is it? Is the question, and mostly we've been caught up in our stories of what we are, and you know, drunk, thief, criminal, not a very good businessman. You know, all of those self stories that you know I had about myself over the years. You know, dishonest. You know, a lot of those pictures were the pictures that you know I had made up about me, and I am all of those things, and in a way, so are we all. We all have those traits, but I can't just love those. I need to be who I am now and love who I am this moment, and not my story, my history. Lauren, you were going to say something.
No, I think you said it.
Did she?
We're supposed to self-love and boundaries. Yeah, you can love yourself enough to not do that type of relationship, and you can still love them.
Mm-hmm. But what if we attracted them? We weren't a victim. We actually attracted them because we needed them to help us. Huh?
Oh no, I agree. Like
Yeah.
full on, it was a 5-year relationship, and full on, we needed each other, and there was some huge, massive learnings and healings that happened in that relationship, and it was really, really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And as hard as it was, and as many tears as there were, it was really, really beautiful. And it's just that the universe was like, time's up. Ding.
Ding.
Off we went.
Yeah, that's right. New game.
Okay, where are we going now?
New game. Yeah.
And I think our relationship is in transition. It's only been about 3 months since we broke up, but I think our relationship's in transition. And, you know, I think that it has the opportunity to transition into something else, you know, like whether it's friendship or whatever transpires from it. I don't
Yeah.
know yet, but I'm open
Mm-hmm. So with boundaries, just for a second, the idea of boundaries is going back to somehow me controlling the show. If we trust our intuition, if we trust our connection with the moment, we'll know when it's yes and when it's no. Not from a set of rules or preconceived ideas, but we'll actually know, oh, no, this isn't, we'll feel into it. And we'll start to be able to discern whether it's a no because we're afraid, or whether it's a no because we're, it's really a no. Or if it's a yes because we're trying to get something, or if it's a yes because there's an opportunity to be there in love in some way. And so we start to live in this, like a consciousness. Oh, they call it that, don't they? Consciousness. and where we're not relying on story or training or personal development, or we're actually connected in each moment, and we're there in love.
Listening to the moment.
Yes. And it doesn't mean that that we can still get in lots of trouble because we're playing in a new arena. We're not listening to what our grandmother said. It's not a safe world, or you got to be careful out there. Don't trust men, because you know what they want. I mean, we all heard that, and at one level or another, and so we live into that, and we're going to drop that, and just be there in love, and trust that the moment will look after us, that universal intelligence, love will look after us, and because we're there with the intent to be in service, to be caring, to be available, to listen, to be compassionate with ourselves, as well as to see all of that. It kind of sounds a little Pollyanna, Polly something, but it's possible, isn't it? Is it too much? I don't know, but anyway, I think it's possible, and I've surrendered to it. I have a new employer. I call the moment my employer, God my employer, and I've just said yes. I'm available for life on life's terms, as much as I can with love, and so I hope to just be that, as much as I can, and help whatever, keep painting the picture as of the possibility. And so that we can all be more in that, and I just want to tell you that my teacher Paul Lowe started sharing this almost exactly like this 25 years ago, and it took me forever, and I don't even know, what I mean? I think I was, not. Thicker than most, in a way, to get this message to come through, this message of love, and to feel it, the connection. And so,
Perfect time.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Of course. Forgive me for being in complaint. I was bitching about, the 25 years, and I wouldn't miss a minute of it. We're going to meditate. And before we meditate, I want to say a couple of quick things. One is that I have, will you lift that up for a second? A whole bunch of these. And forgive me for doing this, but I have a whole bunch of these, like 250 of these. I bought these when I bought my meditation stools, and because I had this vision that everybody that bought a meditation stool would want a little altar. Well, it didn't work out that way. And so not only... I have a place where I store them, and that's kind of, I'm not going to have a place to store them pretty soon. And so these are like, if anybody wants one, they're like $25. Just, but they can be great for putting salt lamps on, or plants, or it could be your...
I put my dog's drinking bowl on it. He loves it.
Oh, there you go. There's a very unique use for one of you. Have one of these but it could be a little altar too. So, or your singing bowl, or whatever. So I'm just sharing that with you, that I got a bunch of them, and I also have some of the my meditation stools. Some of you are sitting on the meditation stools, and I've got a bunch of those left too, and other things, tables and stuff. So just want to mention that. The 21st, when we originally, I'm a hopeless optimist, right? And so I thought, well, we're going to have 60 people at our thing on the 21st, and probably, by the middle of February, all the tickets will be sold. Well, that's, it still can happen, and what I'm saying though is that, so we thought, well, we'll make it $30 for the 21st, or the thing on the 21st, and did I tell you who else coming? Thibodeau. March 21st, yeah. Trevor Thibodeau's coming with Mira, and they're going to do, the intensive, and Jeremy is coming with Lorna. Yeah, Lauren, and damn, and he's going to do chanting, and Marie Claire is coming to lead us in dance. We're going to dance a lot, and Giselle and Denard are coming, and we're going to do breath work with them. So there's going to be a full day. Plus, we're going to eat, and it looks like who's going to look after the kitchen?
Chris and Venus, possibly. Chris said yes.
Yeah, Chris and Venus. Does anybody know Chris and Venus? They're they're totally vegan, but they're going to have to cook a little bit with. There's not going to be any meat, but it'll be a vegetarian dinner. It won't be totally, But we're also going to bring dishes, so it's going to be for $30 we can't feed everybody. So, and so just saying that we'd love you to, if you're going to come, get your ticket, and encourage others to, share go on the event and share it with 1,000 people, or a couple hundred, so we're going to move though we had this early bird thing that was going to be over in the middle of February. We're going to move it to the 1st of March or something, because I want people to come. I'm not concerned about the money. I want people to come. And if anybody has a financial problem, if there's like, oh my God, the $30 is too much, let me know what you can do, that's it. It's going to be a fun day. And it's right here in this building. There's that great big room at the end. It's got a labyrinth on the floor. It's amazing. And so we're going to experiment with love. And the context is awakening to love. And yeah. So come bring your gal. Are you going to bring her? Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. Is it after 9? So 5-minute meditation.
David, I'm going to sneak out because I have an hour drive, so I'm going to
Do
go
you?
with my kids, so.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's been great having you here. Hope you
Yes.
come again.
I will, thank you.
Okay. So we'll just meditate for 5 minutes. Can we do that? Yeah. So just drop in. Feel the love. I can't do it unless you do the ding. Just kidding. Thank you. Come back when you're ready. There's no rush. Just take your time. We've been really in a bit of an altered state, so, you know, there's no hurry. Just ease up. Love it if you go on our YouTube page and follow us. Subscribe. Thanks, you guys. Love you.